The ash-gray sky of New Meridian Colony burned with the remnants of orbital bombardment. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched through the cracked viewport of the colony's last defensive bunker, her hands clenched so tightly around the tactical display that her knuckles had gone white. 3 days. That's all they had left. The Zincor hegemony's massive dreadnoughts dominated the sky, their crystalline hulls refracting the dying light of the colony's twin suns. Each pulse of their weapons annihilated another sector, another hope. Millions of colonists had already been reduced to ash and memory. Targeting systems are down, Lieutenant Kira Chen reported, her voice a mixture of exhaustion and defiance. We've got maybe 12 functional defense turrets left. Ammunition at 30%. Rodriguez knew the statistics. Knew them so well, they haunted her dreams. The Zincor didn't just conquer, they erased. Every colony, every settlement that resisted was systematically dismantled, its population either enslaved or exterminated. New Meridian was just another name on their long list of planned extinctions. But something burned inside her. A fury that went beyond military training. A primal human determination that refused to accept defeat. Not yet, Rodriguez muttered, more to herself than to her crew. In the corner of the bunker, a group of civilian engineers huddled around a makeshift workstation. Their leader, an older woman with oil-stained coveralls and eyes that had seen too much, was welding together something that looked like a cross between a mining laser and a communications array. Rodriguez, the woman called out, "We might have something." The captain approached, her tactical uniform scorched and torn. The engineer, Maria Gonzalez, Colony's chief technical director, pointed to a holographic schematic that flickered with an unstable energy signature. "We've been collecting data from every Zincor weapon strike," Gonzalez explained. "Not just damage reports. Energy signatures, weapon harmonics, quantum fluctuations. The aliens think we're just collecting casualty data. But we're mapping their entire technological ecosystem." Rodriguez saw it then. What looked like random data points were actually a complex neural network of technological vulnerabilities. The Zincor, in their absolute certainty of superiority, had never considered that humans might be studying them as intently as they were studying humanity. A massive explosion rocked the bunker. Dust and fragments of reinforced concrete rained down. "We've got incoming," Lieutenant Chen shouted. "Multiple Zincor strike teams, Sector 7. But Rodriguez was transfixed by the holographic display. Something was emerging from the complex data, a pattern that suggested more than just survival. It whispered of something extraordinary. In that moment, with destruction raining from the sky and extinction mere hours away, humanity was about to change everything. Far beyond the burning skies of New Meridian, in a location known only to a handful of people, something was taking shape. Something that would make the Zincor hegemony understand that they had gravely, fatally underestimated humanity. The battleship was almost ready. The quantum research facility looked like nothing more than an abandoned asteroid mining station from the outside. Layers of electromagnetic camouflage and quantum disruption fields made it invisible to even the most advanced alien scanning technologies. Dr. Marcus Chen stood before a holographic display that pulsed with impossible geometries. His fingers, scared from years of experimental work, traced lines of data that defied conventional physics. Photographs of his parents, victims of the first Zincor invasion, watched silently from a worn digital frame. Simulation run 4721. He muttered into the facility's AI interface. "Initiate quantum resonance test." The room hummed with potential. Chen had been called a madman, a heretic of scientific thought. Traditional military researchers had laughed him out of every conventional research program. But they hadn't lost everything to the alien invasion. They hadn't watched entire worlds burn. A holographic representation of the battleship's core system materialized. It wasn't just a weapon or a vessel. It was a living system of technological innovation. Each component was designed to adapt, to learn, to evolve faster than any known technological framework. Structural integrity at 99.8%. the AI reported. Quantum entanglement drive approaching optimal resonance. Chen remembered the day everything changed. It wasn't a moment of scientific breakthrough, but of personal devastation. 10 years ago, when the Zincor first attacked the outer colonies, he'd been a junior researcher on a deep space communication project. His parents were colonists on Ganymede Station, one of the first human settlements completely obliterated in the invasion. The military had called it a strategic loss. Chen called it a murder. From that moment, he dedicated his entire existence to creating something the aliens could never anticipate. Not just a weapon, but a technological paradigm shift that would make humanity's survival not just possible, but inevitable. A sudden alert flickered across the display. Someone had detected a quantum signature, barely a whisper, but enough to raise alarms. "Initiate Ghost Protocol," Chen commanded. The entire facility began to shift. Quantum camouflage systems engage, restructuring the very fabric of space around the research center. Holographic projections created multiple false signatures, each more complex than the last. To any observer, it would look like nothing more than random spatial noise. But it was a trap, and a message. Deep within the facility's most secure vault, the battleship's primary control systems pulsed with an intelligence that was neither fully artificial nor entirely human. It was something new, something that had been born from humanity's most desperate moment of innovation. Chen allowed himself the smallest of smiles. The Zincor believed they understood technological superiority. They had no idea what was coming. A communication pinged, encrypted through channels the aliens couldn't possibly intercept. It was from Captain Rodriguez. The final pieces were falling into place. "Ready or not," Chen whispered, "we're coming." Outside the facility, what appeared to be a simple asteroid continued its silent drift through the void of space. Nothing suggested the revolutionary technology hidden within its quantum-shielded heart. The training simulator screamed with simulated destruction. Lieutenant Kira Chen, no relation to Dr. Marcus Chen, gripped the experimental neural interface, her body drenched in cold sweat. Around her, the battleship's core crew pushed themselves beyond human limits, testing systems that defied conventional understanding. "Quantum stabilization failing," shouted aerospace engineer Ramirez from his station. "Adaptive algorithms are breaking down." Kira's mind raced through potential solutions faster than any computer could process. The neural interface wasn't just a control system. It was a symbiotic extension of human creativity and machine precision. This wasn't standard military training. This was survival reimagined. Each crew member had been selected not just for their technical expertise, but for their ability to think beyond impossible. Marco Alvarez, their chief tactical officer, had survived 3 separate alien massacres. Elena Rodriguez's tactical genius had saved entire colony clusters. Dr. Samira Patel, their lead quantum systems engineer, had developed computational models that made traditional AI look like children's toys. The simulator reset. Another impossible scenario materialized. Zincor battle formations surrounded them, a mathematically perfect defensive configuration that had decimated thousands of species. Traditional military doctrine would suggest immediate retreat, but this crew saw something else. Pattern recognition engaged, the ship's AI announced. But this was no ordinary AI. It was a learning system that blurred the lines between machine intelligence and human intuition. Kira saw the weakness, not in the alien formation's physical structure, but in their computational logic, an infinitesimal moment of predictive delay that most would consider irrelevant. "Quantum cascade," she whispered into her neural link. "Asymmetrical response vector." The simulator exploded with possibilities. Weapon systems that could reconfigure mid-strike, defensive capabilities that anticipated attacks before they were even conceived, communication channels that could simultaneously exist and not exist. This wasn't just a battleship, it was humanity's defiance made manifest. Outside the training center, political battles raged. Military conservatives argued against the project's massive resource allocation. Intelligence agencies debated the risks of such an unprecedented technological leap. But those who had seen humanity's near extinction understood this was no longer about winning a war. This was about ensuring survival. Dr. Marcus Chen watched from an observation deck, his eyes never leaving the training simulation. Each moment validated years of impossible research, of pushing scientific boundaries that others considered madness. Simulation complete, the system announced. Crew adaptive response, 99.7% efficiency. Ramirez let out a breathless laugh. We're actually going to do this. Kira removed her neural interface, her hands trembling slightly. The line between human limitation and technological potential had just been obliterated. A message flashed on the primary display, encrypted but clear enough. Their first real mission was approaching. The Zincor hegemony had no idea what was coming. The battleship wasn't just a weapon. It was humanity's middle finger to the universe, a declaration that they would not just survive, but fundamentally reshape the cosmic equation of warfare and existence. The cosmic battlefield erupted in a symphony of impossible physics. 12 major alien fleets converged, a mathematical precision of destruction that had annihilated countless civilizations. The Zincor hegemony's primary battle group, the Vorn Collective's quantum strike force, and 7 other species' most advanced war machines created a convergence point that should have been absolute, calculated, inevitable. They never saw the human battleship coming. Quantum cascade initiated. Captain Alina Rodriguez spoke softly, her words more a caress than a command. The neural interface responded, not as a machine, but as an extension of human will. The battleship moved. Not like a traditional vessel, but like a thought-given physical form. It didn't simply navigate through space. It rewrote the very fabric of spatial existence. Lieutenant Kira Chen monitored the quantum harmonics, her hands dancing across interfaces that looked more like abstract art than technological controls. Targeting systems are, well, targeting doesn't even begin to describe this, she muttered. Dr. Samira Patel's voice cut through the communication channel. They're operating on a mathematical model of warfare that's been unchanged for millennia. We're about to show them why evolution is humanity's true weapon. The first Zincor dreadnought simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, not damaged, erased, as if it had never been more than a potential mathematical construct. Marco Alvarez, their tactical officer, tracked the impossible. Weapon systems that simultaneously existed in multiple states, defensive capabilities that anticipated attacks before they were even conceived, communication channels that could be everywhere and nowhere at once. Adaptive response pattern confirmed, the ship's AI announced. But this was no ordinary artificial intelligence. It was a living system that breathed with the collective consciousness of its human crew. The alien fleets began to panic, not with the chaos of fear, but with the precision of a computational system experiencing its first true uncertainty. Rodriguez watched the holographic displays, entire battle formations, mathematically perfect configurations that had decimated thousands of species, began to dissolve, not through direct attack, but through a fundamental challenge to their understanding of combat. We're not destroying them, she realized aloud. We're making them understand their own limitations. The battleship moved through the fleet like a quantum ghost. Weapon systems that had been primed for millennia simply powered down. Defensive fields that had been impenetrable became transparent. Entire technological ecosystems collapsed under the weight of a single fundamental truth. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of existence. Tactical assessment, Rodriguez called out. Alvarez's response was calm, almost clinical. Complete tactical superiority. 0 human casualties. Enemy threat neutralized. The communication channels of the alien fleets erupted, not with declarations of war, but with something far more terrifying. Pure, unadulterated confusion. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice came through the communication system. They don't understand, he said, a mixture of scientific fascination and human determination in his tone. And that's our greatest weapon. As the cosmic dust settled, something had fundamentally changed. This wasn't just a battle. This was a declaration. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. The quantum harmonics of the battleship's weapon systems sang a song of impossible mathematics. Lieutenant Kira Chen watched in awe as the ship's adaptive interface translated alien weapon signatures into tactical opportunities. What the Xincor considered an impenetrable attack became, in human hands, a complex dance of technological anticipation. Quantum cascade initiating, the ship's AI announced. But this was no mere computer. It was a living system that breathed with the collective consciousness of its human crew. Their first true engagement wasn't just a battle. It was a complete reinvention of warfare. 3 Xincor dreadnoughts converged, their crystalline hulls generating defensive fields that had annihilated hundreds of species. Their weapon systems represented millennia of refined technological supremacy, perfectly calculated, mathematically precise, completely predictable. Adaptive Response Pattern Alpha 7, Captain Rodriguez commanded. Her voice was calm, almost conversational, despite the apocalyptic scene unfolding around them. The battleship moved, not with the rigid precision of traditional military vessels, but with a fluidity that defied conventional physics. Its weapon systems didn't just fire, they anticipated. Each pulse of energy was a complex algorithm that simultaneously existed in multiple potential states. Dr. Samira Patel monitored the quantum entanglement systems, her fingers dancing across interfaces that looked more like abstract art than traditional controls. Weapon harmonics in perfect resonance, she reported. We're seeing quantum state manipulation beyond our initial projections. Marco Alvarez, their tactical officer, grinned. It wasn't a smile of aggression, but of pure scientific appreciation. The Xincor were experiencing something entirely new, a technological paradigm they couldn't comprehend. The first Xincor dreadnought simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, not damaged, erased, as if it had never been more than a potential mathematical construct. Quantum cascade complete, the AI reported. Structural integrity of target, 0.0. Communication channels erupted. Xincor command structures, built on millennia of technological certainty, began to fracture. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a fundamental challenge to their understanding of reality. They don't understand. Dr. Chen's voice came through the communication system. And that's our greatest weapon. The second dreadnought attempted to retreat. Its quantum displacement drive should have been instantaneous, untrackable, impossible to intercept. The battleship's systems laughed. Instead of allowing escape, the ship created a quantum field that simultaneously trapped and dispersed the alien vessel. It existed and did not exist, moved and remained still. A perfect paradox of technological innovation. Kira felt something beyond the neural interface, a connection that transcended traditional human-machine interaction. This wasn't just a ship. It was humanity's defiance made manifest, a technological middle finger to a universe that had tried to destroy them. The third Xincor dreadnought didn't even attempt to fight. Pure, unadulterated terror radiated from its communication systems. Tactical assessment, Captain Rodriguez called out. Complete and total victory, Alvarez responded. 0 human casualties. Enemy threat neutralized. Outside, the void of space remained indifferent. But something had changed. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of existence. The galactic diplomatic nexus burned with tension. Holographic representations of 12 alien civilizations flickered around the central chamber, each delegation more agitated than the last. Humanity's representative sat alone, a deliberate choice that spoke volumes. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, now elevated from her military role, wore a simple black uniform that seemed to absorb the complex light of the diplomatic chamber. No ornate decorations, no desperate attempts to impress. Just pure, unapologetic presence. The human vessel destroyed 3 Xincor dreadnoughts without a single supporting ship, announced the Krelltak representative, its crystalline body vibrating with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. This is not a military achievement. This is a fundamental violation of known technological principles. Rodriguez said nothing. Her silence was more powerful than any speech. The Vorn diplomatic cluster, a collective intelligence that had dominated galactic politics for millennia, began to fragment. Centuries of carefully constructed political alliances crumbled in real time. Whispers of panic translated across a dozen alien communication matrices. Dr. Marcus Chen watched from a secure communication hub, monitoring every quantum signature, every microscopic diplomatic tremor. This wasn't just a military victory. It was a complete restructuring of galactic power dynamics. Diplomatic protocol suggests a response, prompted the chamber's eye moderator. Rodriguez's lips curled into the smallest of smiles. We are not here to suggest. We are here to inform. The holographic displays shifted, not by her command, but by the collective quantum network that now connected the battleship to this diplomatic space. Tactical data, technological analyses, potential conflict resolution matrices, all simultaneously presented and withheld. A masterclass in controlled information warfare. The Zincor representative, its multifaceted form usually a picture of absolute confidence, now appeared fragmented, literally and metaphorically. Its quantum communication signatures showed signs of complete systemic breakdown. You've weaponized uncertainty, the Vorn collective finally spoke. Humanity has turned unpredictability into a strategic advantage. Chen's voice cut through the communication channel. Survival has always been our greatest technology. Political boundaries that had existed for thousands of years began to dissolve, not through violent conquest, but through the pure, terrifying potential of human innovation. The battleship wasn't just a weapon. It was a universal reset button. We do not seek conquest, Rodriguez stated, her words precise and measured. We seek balance. But everyone in the chamber understood the subtext. Balance, in human terms, meant something entirely different from what any other species comprehended. The Krelltak representative made a sound that might have been a laugh, or a preemptive surrender. You've changed everything. No, Rodriguez corrected. We've simply begun. Outside the diplomatic chamber, the quantum signature of the human battleship pulsed, a silent reminder that this was just the first movement in a much larger symphony. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. The edges of known space trembled. Alien civilizations that had ruled for millennia now scrambled like cornered prey. The human battleship moved through contested territories, not as a weapon of war, but as a living testament to technological evolution. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her hand barely touching the quantum interface. Around her, the ship's systems pulsed with an intelligence that defied traditional understanding. Each movement was a complex dance of possibility, each decision a quantum calculation that rewrote the rules of engagement. Incoming transmission, Lieutenant Kira Chen announced. Multiple diplomatic channels, encryption levels beyond anything we've seen. The holographic displays erupted with information. Not just communication streams, but entire political ecosystems laid bare. The Zincor hegemony's internal communications showed complete systemic collapse. Centuries-old power structures crumbled like ancient dust. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice cut through the communication systems. They're trying to understand how we did it. But understanding isn't the point. Survival is. Marco Alvarez, their tactical officer, tracked multiple potential conflict zones simultaneously. But these were no longer simple military calculations. Each potential conflict was a complex web of technological, political, and psychological variables. We're not conquering, Rodriguez murmured, more to herself than to the crew. We're rebalancing. The battleship moved through a region that had been a war zone for over 3 centuries. 3 different species had fought here, consuming entire star systems in their endless conflict. Humanity's arrival wasn't a military intervention. It was a quantum reset. Weapon systems that had been primed for millennia simply powered down. Not destroyed. Not negotiated. Simply rendered irrelevant. Quantum cascade stabilization complete, the ship's AI reported. But this was no ordinary artificial intelligence. It was a living system that breathed with the collective consciousness of its human crew. Diplomatic channels across the galaxy lit up, not with declarations of war, but with something far more terrifying to established powers: genuine curiosity. The Vorn Collective, a species that had believed itself the pinnacle of technological evolution, now sent encrypted messages that were equal parts terror and fascination. How had humans transformed technological potential into something so fundamentally uncontrollable? Dr. Samira Patil monitored the quantum entanglement systems, her fingers dancing across interfaces that looked more like abstract art than traditional controls. "They're trying to reverse engineer our approach," she said, a hint of amusement in her voice. "They have no idea." Entire star systems watched as the human battleship moved, not with the aggressive posturing of traditional military vessels, but with a fluidity that suggested something beyond mere technological superiority. "We're rewriting the rules," Rodriguez said quietly. The ship's systems responded, not with words, but with a quantum pulse that simultaneously represented agreement, potential, and infinite possibility. Alien civilizations that had spent millennia perfecting their technological and political hierarchies now faced a simple, terrifying reality. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. In the vast darkness between stars, something fundamental had changed. The rules of existence had been rewritten, and humanity held the pen. Silence filled the battleship's observation deck, not the cold silence of space, but something alive with potential. Captain Alina Rodriguez looked out at the stars, no longer just points of light, but a canvas of infinite possibility. Behind her, the crew that had redefined humanity's place in the universe stood in quiet reflection. Dr. Marcus Chen approached, his hands, the same hands that had transformed human technological understanding, were surprisingly still. "We've changed everything," he said. It wasn't a boast. It was a statement of profound, almost philosophical observation. Lieutenant Kira Chen studied the quantum displays. Patterns of possibility danced across holographic interfaces, each flicker a testament to humanity's newfound potential. The ship was more than a vessel now. It was a living bridge between what humanity had been and what it could become. "Not just change," Rodriguez corrected, her voice carrying the weight of countless battles and impossible decisions. "Evolved." The battleship's eye, a system that had long since transcended traditional artificial intelligence, pulsed with a consciousness that was part machine, part human, part something entirely new. It had learned, adapted, transformed. Marco Alvarez brought up the historical data, planetary records, colonization logs, invasion histories. The story of humanity was no longer a narrative of survival, but a fundamental reimagination. Dr. Samira Patil approached the central display. Her fingers traced lines of quantum potential that would have been incomprehensible mere months ago. "We're not conquerors," she said softly. "We're architects of possibility." The ship moved, not through traditional propulsion, but through a quantum translation of potential that defied conventional understanding. Each movement was a conversation with the universe itself. Transmissions came in from across the galaxy. Not messages of surrender, but of genuine curiosity. Alien civilizations that had once viewed humanity as a minor, inconsequential species now watched with a mixture of terror and wonder. "What do we do now?" Lieutenant Chen asked. It was the question that hung in the air, a question that had no simple answer. Rodriguez smiled, a smile that contained multitudes. "We continue." The battleship's quantum core pulsed, memories of New Meridian colony, of countless worlds that had been on the brink of extinction, of a species that had been pushed to its absolute limit, and then found something beyond that limit. Holographic displays showed potential futures, not predictions, but conversations of possibility. Entire star systems that could be transformed, conflicts that could be resolved, potential that could be unlocked. "We are not what we were," Dr. Chen said, his voice a mixture of scientific precision and something deeper, something almost spiritual. The observation deck fell silent again, but it was a different silence now, charged, alive, full of potential. Outside, the stars seemed to watch, waiting. Humanity had arrived, and this was just the beginning. The battleship moved, quantum drives humming with a song of infinite possibility. Not a weapon, not a vessel, but a promise.